It began on a night when the world felt too loud for both of them. The cameras, the flashing lights, the endless interviews, the pressure to always smile and act calm even when the heart was tired. It was a night in Tokyo, long after their movie promotion schedule ended, and the city outside was glowing like a dream made of neon stars. But inside, both Keanu and Sandra felt strangely quiet, almost heavy, like something unspoken was sitting in the air. Sandra was the first to notice it in him. She always did. The way he looked out the tall hotel window, hands in his pockets, shoulders lowered, as if he was holding memories that the world did not know about. Memories of loss, of love that left too soon, of people he wished he could have saved. She walked to him slowly and said in a soft voice, almost like she was afraid of disturbing something fragile, "You want to get some air?" He looked at her with gentle eyes, tired but warm. He nodded once. No words were needed. That was something about them. They understood silence. They stepped outside into the cool night. Tokyo lights shimmered like falling stars across the dark sky. Cars passed with soft sounds. People laughed at distant corners. Vending machines glowed like tiny spaceships by the sidewalks. And they walked side by side. No guards, no photographers, no crowds chasing them. Just two souls walking in the quiet. Keanu kept his hands in his pockets, but his steps were slow, thoughtful. Sandra watched him every few seconds, not to pry, but to be present, to let him know she was there. Sometimes just being seen was the greatest kindness someone could give. After a while, Keanu finally spoke, and his voice was low, steady, but layered with something deep. You ever feel like the world is moving too fast? Like everyone is racing for something, but they don't know what they are running toward? Sandra breathed in. The air smelled like night rain and old stone. All the time, she answered. But when I walk next to you like this, I feel the world slow down again. That made him smile. A small, real smile. The kind only people who know pain can offer. They continued walking until they reached a quiet park. Lanterns hung above the pathway, shining golden light on the cherry trees. The branches were bare, but still beautiful. The wind moved through them like a whisper. Keanu sat on a bench. Sandra sat beside him. The silence was gentle, not heavy. He spoke again, but this time more vulnerable. I lost people I loved, and sometimes I feel like pieces of me are still stuck in those moments, like I never fully left. Sandra did not rush to comfort him. Sometimes words are too quick, too easy. Instead, she let the moment breathe. She placed her hand lightly over his, not holding, just letting him feel another human presence. You don't have to leave those moments, she said softly. You just have to carry them in a way that doesn't hurt you anymore. His eyes changed. Something softened. Something released. And in that small, quiet moment in a park in Japan, with no one watching, no script guiding their actions, no expectations from the world outside, they found a peace that neither of them was searching for, yet both needed. The night was not about romance, not about fame, not about the past or the future. It was simply a reminder. We heal when someone walks beside us. We heal when someone sees us. We heal when we are not alone. And on that late night walk in Japan, Keanu Reeves and Sandra Bullock were not alone anymore. The next morning, everything felt different, though nothing was said about the night before. They still had interviews, cameras, rehearsals, and scheduled smiles. But there was a quiet understanding between them now, something gentle and steady, like a hand resting over the heart, something that did not need to be spoken aloud. But peace never stays long in the world they lived in. As they stepped out of the hotel lobby together, a group of photographers had already gathered. Flashes exploded like lightning. Voices shouted their names. Someone yelled something rude, trying to get a reaction. Another shouted a rumor about their past, trying to stir chaos. Sandra saw Keanu's jaw tighten. He did not like when people turned real feelings into entertainment. She touched his arm lightly. He looked at her for a moment, and that was enough. They walked forward calmly. The world tried to shake them, but they stayed steady. Inside the car, Sandra let out a small sigh. Sometimes I forget how loud it gets. Keanu nodded, his gaze fixed on the blur of passing buildings outside the window. It is loud, he said quietly. But last night was not. She smiled. remembering the stillness under the lanterns and cherry branches. "No," she whispered. It wasn't, but the weight of the world returned quickly. That evening, they had a press dinner at a traditional Japanese restaurant. Everything was polite, structured, and elegant. People spoke in soft tones. Dishes arrived like art pieces, each one delicate and beautiful. But near the center of the room sat a producer from Hollywood, a man who loved attention, control, and secrets. His smile was wide, but his eyes were sharp like knives. He leaned toward Sandra, pretending to speak casually, but his words held poison. "You should be careful," he murmured. "Walking around late at night can start rumors." Sandra felt her heart stiffen. "Just a walk," she answered simply. "Nothing more." The man chuckled. "There's never nothing more when the world is watching." Keanu heard him. He did not interrupt. He did not cause a scene. But his eyes moved to the man with a calm that held something fierce underneath. A quiet warning. A line drawn. After dinner, they stepped outside again. No cameras, no storms of people. Just the sound of the city breathing. Sandra spoke first this time. "Why do people always want to turn something simple into something complicated?" Keanu looked up at the soft lights hanging across the street. "Maybe," he said slowly, "they don't know how to see something pure. Maybe they have forgotten what peace looks like." She thought about that, and surprisingly, she felt sad for those people. They began walking again, not like the night before. This time the walk was slower, heavier, as if they were thinking through the people who tried to own their stories, shape them, twist them. After a few minutes, Sandra stopped walking. She turned and stood in front of him. Her voice was quiet, but steady. "I don't want last night to be taken away. I don't want it turned into something ugly." Keanu looked at her, and something inside him softened again, just like before. "It won't," he said, "because the memories we keep inside us belong to us. No one can enter there." She felt warmth spread in her chest, a kind of relief. They continued walking, side by side. No conversation needed, but something was different tonight. It was not just peace this time. It was strength. They were no longer walking to escape the world's noise. They were walking to protect something beautiful. Something real. Something quiet. And in silence, they promised each other that no rumor, no headline, and no stranger's voice would ever take that away. The following day, the weather changed. A light rain fell over Tokyo, soft and slow, like the sky was sighing. The city looked gentler, washed clean. Keanu and Sandra were scheduled for a long interview series at a television studio. The building was large, the halls busy, lights bright enough to erase shadows. But inside them, both carried the quiet from the night before. Like a secret folded carefully in their pockets, the interviews started normally. Questions about the movie, about scenes, about behind-the-scenes moments. The usual stories they had told 1,000 times. But then, halfway through, one interviewer leaned forward with a practiced smile. The kind of smile that looked friendly, but wasn't. "Many fans are wondering if there is something more between the two of you," he said. "We saw photos of you both walking together at night. You looked very close." The room stilled. The camera lights became too bright. Keanu's hands remained calm on his lap. Sandra's breathing slowed. They shared no glance, but they understood each other instantly. This was the moment where most people would explain, deny, or laugh nervously. But Keanu did something else. He spoke slowly, with honesty. "We are close," he said softly. "Sometimes in life, you meet someone who understands your silence more than your words." The interviewer blinked, surprised. Keanu did not continue. He did not add drama. He did not give gossip. He said only what was true. Sandra felt her throat tighten, not with fear, but with something warm, something grateful. She followed his words, gently. "We care for each other," she said. "We support each other. That is enough. That is real." The interviewer tried to push again, but it did not work. Their answers were not the answers that fed rumors. They gave no scandal, only sincerity. And sincerity has a different power. The interview ended. The cameras turned off. The lights dimmed. And when they stepped outside, rain greeted them again. Like an old friend, Sandra laughed softly as the drops touched her hair. "We don't have umbrellas," she said. Keanu looked up into the rain. letting the drops hit his face. Maybe we don't need them, he replied. So they walked through Tokyo in the rain. Not running, not hiding. Just walking. The rain softened the city's noise. Footsteps became quiet. Car sounds blurred away. Neon lights reflected on wet pavement like watercolor paintings. As they walked, Sandra finally asked the question sitting in her heart since the night in the park. Keanu, when you said you feel like pieces of you are still in the past, do you ever feel like you don't deserve to be happy now? He stopped walking. Rain blue shimmered around them. His eyes held something old, something wounded, something honest. Sometimes, he whispered, sometimes I feel like happiness is something that belongs to other people. Like I'm meant to just watch it from a distance. A single raindrop slid down Sandra's cheek. Or maybe it was a tear. She stepped closer. Not too close. Just enough. You deserve peace, she said. You deserve rest. You deserve someone who listens. Someone who understands you. Someone who doesn't walk away. He looked at her. Really looked. In her eyes, there was no expectation, no demand, no attempt to fix him. Only presence, only truth. The rain became lighter, almost like the sky was listening to. Keanu breathed out, slow and deep. Thank you, he said. And it was not just for her words. It was for every moment she saw him. Every moment she stayed. They continued walking through the rain. No destination, no rush. They did not need to name what they were to each other. Sometimes connection doesn't need a label. Sometimes the most powerful thing in life is simply this: two souls walking together through the world without running away. The next days moved quietly, like soft waves. There were still interviews, meetings, rehearsals, and moments when they had to smile for cameras. But even when surrounded by people, there was always a hidden space of calm between them. A space that only they could feel. A space built from silence, honesty, and the peacefulness of walking together in the rain. But peace is never permanent in a world that feeds on noise. One afternoon, while they were preparing for a magazine shoot, Sandra received a message on her phone. It was a headline spreading online, the kind that twists truth into something dramatic. It suggested she and Keanu were secretly together. Not gently, not kindly, but in a way that was designed to sell stories, create chaos, and break friendships. Her heart dropped. She looked at the floor for a long moment, breathing slowly, remembering the quiet night under lanterns, remembering the rain walk, remembering how real those moments were. But the world outside did not know how to leave truth untouched. When Keanu walked into the room, he noticed immediately. Her shoulders, her eyes, the way she held her phone a little too tight. He stepped closer, his voice gentle. What happened? She handed him the screen. He read it. He did not get angry. He did not raise his voice. He only exhaled softly, like someone who had seen this too many times. I'm sorry, he said quietly. Sandra shook her head. Don't apologize. We didn't do anything wrong. It's just, I don't want something pure to be used like this. Keanu nodded slowly. The world sometimes attacks what it does not understand. They stood there in silence for a moment. The room was busy around them. Stylists moving clothing racks, photographers setting lights, voices blending in the background. But in that small circle of space, it was just the two of them. Keanu spoke again. His voice calm but strong. We cannot control what others say, but we can protect what we know to be true. We can choose how we respond. Sandra looked at him, and that was when she saw it. The resilience in him. The same resilience that carried him through heartbreak, tragedy, loss, loneliness. He was gentle. But he was also unbreakable. Later, during the photo shoot, they were asked to stand together. The photographer wanted them close, smiling, like to people who had known each other for decades. And in a way, they had. But Sandra noticed something. The photographer kept asking them to look at each other in a romantic way, to act like lovers. She smiled politely, but her chest felt tight. She didn't want their truth to be performed. She didn't want something real to become a show. When the session ended, they stepped out into the hallway together. Sandra leaned back against the wall, breathing quietly. Keanu stood beside her, looking forward. After a moment, she spoke. Should we stop spending time together? Maybe it will protect us. Protect what we have. Keep it from being twisted. The words hurt to say, They felt like pushing away sunlight to avoid shadows. Keanu turned to her. His eyes were soft, steady, full of something deep. If something is real, he said, the world can't destroy it. They can talk, they can twist, they can assume, but they can't take away what we carry inside us. He paused. I don't want to step away from something that brings peace into my life. Her breath caught in her chest. Her eyes warmed. Because in that moment, she realized something. Their connection was not fragile. It was not something that rumors could break. It was something built from truth. Something quiet. Something strong. They walked out of the studio together. Not holding hands. Not making declarations. Just walking. Because sometimes love is not loud. Sometimes love is the simple choice to stay. A few evenings later, their schedule finally gave them a rare gift, a free night with no interviews, no cameras, no obligations. Tokyo was quiet under a silver moon, and the air was cool, carrying the scent of distant rain. Keanu and Sandra stepped out of the hotel lobby like two travelers who had nowhere to be, walking simply because walking felt like breathing. They did not speak at first. They didn't need to. The city lights flickered on the wet pavement, and the night hummed softly like a sleeping heart. Their steps matched naturally, as if they were following music only they could hear. As they walked, Sandra noticed something about Keanu. He seemed lighter. His shoulders were not weighed down. His eyes were gentler. For the first time since arriving, he did not look like someone trying to carry the whole world alone. She smiled quietly. You look more at peace tonight, she said. He glanced at her, then at the sky. Maybe I am, he replied. They crossed a bridge that overlooked a slow-moving river. Lanterns reflected on the water like warm stars drifting without urgency. They stopped at the railing, leaning slightly, watching the gentle ripples below. Sandra spoke softly. Do you ever feel like life is trying to teach us something all the time? Like every moment has a message hidden in it? Keanu nodded. Double quotes, yes, he said. But most people are too busy looking ahead or behind. They forget to look at where they are. She thought about that. Then she said something she rarely said out loud. I used to be afraid of being alone. I always thought I needed people around me to be okay. But lately, I feel stronger when things are quiet. Keanu looked at her slowly. Quiet doesn't mean empty, he said. Sometimes quiet is where we hear what we've been ignoring. She knew what he meant. The things we run from, the feelings we bury, the love we don't allow ourselves to feel. For a moment, the silence between them shifted, deepened, became something almost fragile. Keanu's voice lowered. I used to think heartbreak was something you survived once, and then you learned to live with the emptiness. But maybe the heart doesn't stay empty forever. Maybe it waits. Sandra felt something warm in her chest, something soft, something honest. Waits for what? She asked. He looked at her. Not dramatically. Not intensely. Just truthfully. For someone who doesn't try to fill it, he said. Someone who simply shares the space. Her breath caught. The moment was delicate. Not romantic. Not dramatic. Just real. And sometimes real is stronger than love stories. They continued walking, crossing into a quieter street lined with small wooden shops. An old woman stood outside one of them, closing her store for the night. She looked at them and smiled. Beautiful evening for two people who understand each other, she said gently, in a voice touched with age and kindness. Neither of them corrected her. Neither of them explained. They simply bowed politely and walked on. Once they were far enough away, Sandra let out a small breath of laughter. People see what they want to see, she said. Keanu nodded. And sometimes, he answered, they see something true before we do. They walked a little slower after that. Not because they were tired. But because they didn't want the night to end. They didn't need to define anything. They didn't need promises, labels, or declarations. They simply existed beside each other. And sometimes, that is the highest form of love, a quiet closeness the world cannot name. But the heart understands. The last night of their stay in Japan came quietly, without announcement. No one said the words, but they both felt it. That soft ache that appears when something meaningful is about to end. Not the connection, not the bond, but the moment in time that allowed it to grow calmly, safely, without the world watching. The evening air was cool and fresh. The city lights glowed softly, not loud or busy tonight, but gentle, like they were dimmed just for them. They found themselves walking again, like they had from the beginning. Same streets, same quiet, same peace. But this walk felt different. There was a tender weight to it, a knowing, a quiet acceptance that life would not always allow them quiet nights like this. They reached the same park with the lanterns hanging above the path. The cherry branches swayed slightly in the breeze, bare but still beautiful, like something waiting patiently for spring. They sat on the same bench where Keanu had spoken about the pieces of his heart, still living in the past, and now, Sandra could see something new in his eyes, not absence. Not heavins. But presence. Soft presence. He looked at the cherry branches for a long moment before speaking. I never thought I would find peace in something so simple, he said. A walk, silence, someone who listens, someone who doesn't push. Sandra kept her hands gently folded in her lap. Maybe peace was never something complicated, she said. Maybe we just had to slow down long enough to notice it. Keanu turned his head and looked at her. There was gratitude in his expression. Deep gratitude. Not dramatic, not overwhelming, just real. Thank you, he said. The words were small, but they held everything. Thank you for seeing me. Thank you for staying. Thank you for not needing to define anything. Thank you for walking beside me. Sandra felt her chest warm. Her voice softened. You don't have to thank me. We just met each other in the quiet. That's all. He smiled. A real, gentle smile. But the world was waiting. Flights were scheduled. Projects needed attention. People would ask questions again. Rumors would rise again. And life would continue, loud and fast, as it always did. They both knew this. And they did not pretend otherwise. Instead of holding onto the night with desperation, they chose to honor it. To remember it exactly as it was. Pure. Soft. True. As they stood up to leave the park, Sandra paused. She turned to him, her voice barely above a whisper. When things get heavy later, when the noise gets too loud again, will you remember this? Keanu did not hesitate. I will carry it, he said. Not as a memory I am trying to keep alive, but as something that became part of me. Her eyes softened. Her heart did too. Me too, she said. They walked back slowly, steps light, breaths calm. No rush, no fear of the world waiting outside this moment. And when they reached the hotel entrance, they did not hug tightly, they did not make promises. They simply stood still for a moment and let the quiet speak. To people. To hearts. No labels. No claims. Just a connection that felt like home. Sometimes love is not loud. Sometimes love is not a confession. Sometimes love is simply this. I will walk with you. I will listen to you. I will understand you. And I will remember you not as a chapter but as a part of who I became. Their story did not end that night. It just returned to the world. Carried gently within them.